Je blank desto blank. Sorry, that probably made no sense. Let me say it again in English. The blank. Yeah, that doesn't really help. So there's this construct that exists in both English and German. I don't know if it has an official formal name. I tried to look it up. I think in English this is referred to as comparative clauses. I'm not sure about that. If that's the case, then in German it would be called Vergleichssätze, but I'm not 100% sure. It's kind of hard to describe it without a proper name, so let's describe it via examples. This construct looks like this. The more I learn, the more I know. Je mehr ich lerne, desto mehr weiß ich. The more I drive my car, the more I miss my motorcycle. Je mehr ich mit meinem Auto fahre, desto mehr vermische ich mein Motorrad. The more people I get to know, the more I love my cat. Je mehr Menschen ich kennenlerne, desto mehr liebe ich meine Katze. What we're doing here is setting up a sentence with two clauses, separated by a comma. The first clause introduces some condition or state, and the second clause describes the end result of that condition or state. Or the first clause describes some process, and the second clause describes some related process that is driven by the process described in the first clause. For example, the more beer I drink, the drunker I get. Je mehr Bier ich trinke, desto betrunkener werde ich. In this episode, we're going to look at the technical construction of this construct in both languages. There are some similarities, but also some differences. So let's talk about them. Let's start with English. In English, you'll note that both clauses are introduced with the same word, the. What this means is that we are completely inflexible in the order of the clauses relative to one another. They must be introduced by convention in that order, given blank, then blank. You cannot introduce them in the opposite order without fundamentally shifting or inverting the meaning of the resulting sentence. For example, the more I love my cat, the more people I get to know. Nope, that's the opposite of what I wanted to say. Oh, is this a dead end? Whoops. Okay, let me turn around. We invert the meaning of the sentence if we invert the order of the clauses. Now, sometimes this can work by coincidence. For example, the drunker I get, comma, the more beer I drink. Okay, that still kind of makes sense, but it's still the opposite of what I wanted to say. What I wanted to say is that the first process drives the second process. So in English by convention, it's given blank, then blank, in that order. Keep that in mind, because we will revisit it. Now, in German, we have the clauses introduced by different words. We have je und desto. Je you will recognize as being used elsewhere in the language. It usually means any or ever. For example, das ist das blödste Ding, das ich je gesehen habe. That is the stupidest thing I have ever seen. Je means ever. Je also sometimes appears on its own in some expressions. For example, wie eh und je, same as it ever was. Eh und je there is short for ehemals und jemals. Jemals means like ever. And je, of course, shows up inside certain other words like jemand or jeder. But here, je doesn't have a specific meaning or definition. It only exists to introduce this clause, this first clause in this construct. Okay, how about desto? Desto is kind of an unusual word in that I think this is the only usage of the word desto in the entire German language. And again, desto doesn't have a specific definition here. It just introduces the then clause, the subsequent clause. Okay. So let's talk about ordering. Let's start with clause ordering. Because these clauses are introduced with different words, you might think that we should have some flexibility here in terms of ordering of the clauses relative to one another. Let's talk about ordering in general in the German language for a second. German is generally much more flexible than English when it comes to ordering of stuff because they have a fully inflected case system that allows the sentence to still be parsable even if stuff is in a jumbled up order. For example, by contrast, in English, we stick to subject, verb, object by convention. The subject comes before the verb, the object comes after the verb. I see the dog. Okay, great. If you invert the subject and the object, you change the meaning of the sentence. The dog sees me. Okay, now it's backwards. In German, they don't necessarily care. In German, you can say, ich sehe den Hund. Den Hund sehe ich. Those sentences mean exactly the same thing, even though you might expect it to be reversed now, as it is in English. But it isn't, because in German, den Hund is explicitly accusative case. It's explicitly the object of that sentence, and ich is explicitly a subject pronoun. It can only be the subject of that sentence. So den Hund sehe ich means exactly the same thing, even though the order is backwards. This flexibility in ordering in German is kind of handy, and you think it might work the same way here. I should be able to say something like, desto betrunkener werde ich, je mehr ich trinke. Except it doesn't work. For whatever reason, the Germans are just as inflexible in clause ordering as we are in English. The je clause must come before the desto clause. Okay, but let's talk about word ordering within the clauses. Je acts here as a subordinated conjunction. I don't think it technically is. I'm not sure actually what part of speech it is in this sentence, but it acts as a subordinated conjunction. What I mean by that is that the je clause in German is a Nebensatz. And because it's a Nebensatz, we move the verb to the end. So at first glance, it looks like the word order is the same as what we do in English. For example, the more I learn, comma, in German would be je mehr ich lerne, comma. It looks like exactly the same word order, but it's only the same by coincidence there, because that sentence is very simple. If we add words to the clause, we quickly see that the German word order diverges from the English. For example, if I say the more I learn about that, comma, in German would be je mehr ich darüber lerne, comma. Okay, in English, about that comes after the verb. In German, darüber comes before the verb because the verb is getting pushed to the end by je. Okay. We've seen this in previous episodes in subordinate clauses, so it's not that much of a surprise. But how about desto? Does desto also act as a subordinated conjunction? No, it doesn't. The desto clause in German is actually a Hauptsatz, which means that the word order in the desto clause is going to be more or less what you would expect in a normal German sentence. I say more or less because the desto part occupies position 1, which, as we've seen in previous episodes, when you move something to position 1, it bumps whatever was in position 1, usually the subject, into position 3. Why position 3? Because the verbs in German sentences stick rather stubbornly in position 2 of the sentence. So, the more I learn, comma, the more I know, in German is je mehr ich lerne, comma, desto mehr weiß ich. The verb stays in position 2, ich gets bumped to position 3. You wouldn't say desto mehr ich weiß. That's wrong. Now, a couple of other things to note here is that je and desto go together. They're a pair. Having said that, you will occasionally see desto used by itself. There's an expression in German, desto besser, which means so much the better. Like, I'm good with this. But generally speaking, if you see desto in a sentence, you're probably going to see je in a sentence, and vice versa. Now, for the sake of completion, I will point out that there is an alternative way of phrasing this in German. I think it's a bit slangy, and I don't think it's as common. I certainly haven't heard this as much as je blank, desto blank, but you can also use umso in place of je und desto. So, umso mehr ich lerne, comma, umso mehr weiß ich. That's an alternative way of phrasing this. Personally, I kind of prefer je blank, desto blank, but that's just a style preference, I guess. I'll also point out that neither je nor desto acts as a preposition here. This is important. If you think back to the episode we did on prepositions last year, you'll remember that prepositions require their object, the thing that comes after them, to be expressed in a certain case. For example, mit is what they call a dative preposition. Whatever comes after mit must be expressed in the dative case. So it's always mit mir. You would never say mit ich, nominative case, and you would never say mit mich, accusative case. It's always mit mir. It's not so with je und desto. Neither je nor desto requires a specific case after it. Rather, the case for whatever comes after it is driven by however it would normally be determined in that sentence. Where the heck am I? Oh, this is... okay. I know where I am. I do know where I am, believe it or not. Okay, pop quiz. Let's test your je blank, desto blank knowledge. If I wanted to say in German, the more money I have, the more nice things I can buy myself. How would I express that in German, given the rules around clause ordering and word ordering within the clauses that we just discussed? Hit the pause button if you need more time. Hit the pause button if you need more time. Okay, let's start with the je clause, the given clause. This is the easy one. The more money I have, comma. In German, je mehr Geld ich habe. The only tricky part there is that because it's a Nebensatz, the verb goes to the end. So you don't say je mehr Geld habe ich. You don't say je mehr ich Geld habe, you say je mehr Geld ich habe. Okay. But now let's look at the desto part. Remember, the desto is a Hauptsatz with the desto part occupying position 1. And here the desto part is a little bit longer than we've seen in previous examples. Je mehr Geld ich habe, desto mehr schöne Dinge kann ich mir kaufen. Mehr schöne Dinge is the desto part. Desto mehr schöne Dinge. The more nice things. Okay, the verb stays in position 2. In this case, it's an auxiliary, not an auxiliary verb. In this case, it's a modal verb. Can stays in position 2. The subject gets bumped to position 3, and the rest of the sentence is as you'd expect it to be. Je mehr schöne Dinge kann ich mir kaufen. Okay. So I will give you full points if you got that. I will also give you bonus points if you split the desto part into multiple clauses, because this is also an option. Check this out. Je mehr Geld ich habe, desto mehr schöne Dinge gibt es, die ich mir kaufen kann. This is a little bit more formal, it's a little bit more stuffy. The equivalent in English would be, the more money I have, the more nice things there are that I can buy myself. It's a little bit longer, a little bit stuffier, but it works just as well. So there you go, a quick tour of je blank desto blank. I hope you enjoyed this Oh, what's that, Mr. Duck? You have something to say? Yeah, I know. So here's the story, guys. I maintain what I call an episode idea queue. Whenever I come up with an idea for an episode, or an idea that I think I can develop into an episode, I jot it down in this queue. And the queue has grown quite large over time. And some of the items in that queue have been in there for quite a while. In fact, some of them have been there since season 1. And I just have not gotten around to actually writing them and filming them. So every now and then, I like to go into the queue and see if there's something I can pull out of it and actually get on film. This one was written over a year ago for season 2, and I just didn't get around to filming it last year. So here it is. It's a year late, but here it is. So that'll do it for today. We will see you next time on Lernen und Fahren.